past offseason, 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports were awarded a major legal victory in their fight against NASCAR that now is at risk of being completely overturned.
The NASCAR world has been rocked by an explosive development in the ongoing legal battle with Michael Jordan's 23XI Racing team. The federal appeals court has just heard arguments in this high-stakes showdown that could permanently alter the landscape of America's premier stock car racing series. This contentious legal fight is now reaching a critical turning point as both sides made their case in what insiders are calling the most significant legal challenge NASCAR has faced in decades. The three-judge panel from the 4th U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals didn't hold back during yesterday's hearing, unleashing tough questions at both NASCAR and the teams. This latest chapter in the antitrust lawsuit centers around NASCAR's controversial charter system, essentially franchises that guarantee teams starting positions and financial benefits. The judges appeared highly skeptical of NASCAR's arguments, with one directly challenging NASCAR's attorney by asking if the organization has monopoly power. This pointed question sent shockwaves through the NASCAR establishment, suggesting the court may not be convinced by NASCAR's defense. The legal drama has only intensified since October 20th, 2024, when 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports filed their explosive antitrust lawsuit against NASCAR and CEO Jim France. The team specifically accused NASCAR and the France family of being monopolistic bullies who use anti-competitive and exclusionary practices to enrich themselves at the expense of the premier stock car racing teams. These explosive allegations directly challenge the very foundation of how NASCAR has operated for decades. The France family and NASCAR are monopolistic bullies, and bullies will continue to impose their will to hurt others until their targets stand up and refuse to be victims. That moment has arrived. Their complaint alleges that NASCAR has exploited its economic power as the sole premier stock car racing organization in the United States. It further argues that NASCAR has reached and maintained this position through anti-competitive and exclusionary practices. What's truly remarkable about this legal confrontation is that Michael Jordan's team is continuing to compete at the highest level while simultaneously battling NASCAR in court. This unprecedented situation has created extraordinary tension within the sport, as 23XI Racing drivers like Denny Hamlin and Tyler Reddick continue racing weekly under NASCAR's governance, while their team's owners are locked in this bitter legal dispute with the same organization. The situation has created a bizarre dynamic at racetracks across the country. While Hamlin has been vocal about the lawsuit on his podcast and social media, he's managed to compartmentalize his roles as both a driver for Joe Gibbs Racing and a co-owner of 23XI. Industry insiders report that the atmosphere in the garage area has become increasingly tense as team owners find themselves divided between those who signed NASCAR's charter extension and the rebel teams fighting for what they believe is a more equitable system. NASCAR's countersuit, filed in March, made the bold claim that 23XI Racing and Front Row Motorsports had formed an illegal cartel, a move that many industry insiders saw as a desperate attempt to regain control of a situation rapidly spiraling out of their hands. NASCAR specifically targeted Curtis Polk, Jordan's longtime business manager, as the mastermind behind what they characterized as a scheme to pressure the racing body into accepting more favorable terms. During yesterday's hearing, NASCAR's attorneys argued that the team's lawsuit should be dismissed entirely, claiming the teams agreed to the terms when they initially purchased their charters. However, one judge quickly countered this claim, noting that just because teams participated in the system doesn't mean they can't challenge it as anti-competitive. Another judge questioned whether NASCAR's setup, which gives teams no formal governance powers, was truly comparable to other major sports leagues, as NASCAR has claimed. The most dramatic moment of the hearing came when the judge pressed NASCAR's attorney about the organization's historical control over the sport, when questioned about teams' ability to create a competing racing series. NASCAR's lawyer admitted that no successful competitor to NASCAR has emerged in the modern era. This admission appeared to strengthen the team's argument that NASCAR operates as a monopoly, with one judge noting that The barriers to entry for creating a competing stock car racing series are extraordinarily high. If you don't want the contract, you don't enter into it and you sue. Or if you want the contract, you enter into it and you've given up past releases. You can't have your cake and eat it too, said U.S. Circuit Court Judge Paul Niemeyer while expressing his concerns. The financial stakes of this battle are truly staggering. What began as a $2 million investment when charters were introduced in 2016 has exploded in value, with some charters now valued at over $40 million. Last year, 23XI and Front Row reportedly paid between $20 to $25 million each for single charters from Stewart-Haas Racing. These massive investments are now at risk, depending on how the courts rule. Beyond the immediate financial implications, this case could fundamentally transform the relationship between NASCAR and its teams. For decades, the France family has maintained tight control over virtually every aspect of the sport, from rulemaking to revenue distribution. Teams have historically operated as independent contractors rather than true partners in the enterprise. This lawsuit directly challenges that arrangement, with 23XI and Front Row arguing that teams deserve a greater share of the sport's massive media rights deals and more say in governance. Perhaps most revealing was the questioning about NASCAR's take-it-or-leave-it approach to negotiations. The judges repeatedly pressed NASCAR's attorneys about why the organization presented teams with a final offer just 48 hours before the start of the Cup Series playoffs in September 2024, with the ultimatum that if they didn't sign by a midnight deadline, the charter system would be dismantled entirely. During this exchange, the judges appeared visibly surprised when learning that NASCAR's final charter offer came with such a tight deadline and significant pressure. One judge pointedly asked whether this approach was consistent with good faith negotiations, causing NASCAR's attorney to struggle with providing a satisfactory answer. The court also expressed concern about the power imbalance in these negotiations, noting that teams had little choice but to accept NASCAR's terms if they wanted to continue competing. The legal experts who observed yesterday's hearing noted that the judge's skepticism toward NASCAR could signal trouble for the racing body. If the teams win this case, it could fundamentally reshape NASCAR's business model, potentially forcing the organization to share more power and revenue with teams. Both sides are now anxiously awaiting the court's decision, which is expected within the next few months. Whatever the outcome, this legal battle has exposed the deep tensions within NASCAR's structure and raised serious questions about whether the current system can or should continue. For fans, drivers, and team owners alike, the stakes couldn't be higher as the sport faces one of the most pivotal moments in its 75-year history. This lawsuit could change NASCAR forever, and we're just getting started. So if you want to stay ahead of the drama, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. Trust me, you won't want to miss what happens next.